Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:06 in the afternoon. Wanted to thank everybody for joining us on this lovely, lovely hump day. It's a little bit breezy. We got winds out of the west now, gusting close to 30. But, wow. Hey.
It's gusting close to 30. Have you been outside? It's not that windy.
No.
Well, it is out at the airport.
Which is wrong.
It always is. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
It is a little breezy out there, though. But, hey, a lot of sunshine. A few clouds starting to build up in the Northern Valley. A few showers on radar northwest of Grand Forks. And we'll see a few showers developing throughout the afternoon. Looks like mid to especially late afternoon here in the FM area. Temperatures should, if you're calculating the temperature out at Hector, we might hit 80 today. But the rest of us should be pretty close to 70.
Holy.
Yeah.
I was thinking you're going to go like 72 or something. 80. Just like, well, let's go big or go home. Why don't we just go 90?
Might be a drip of sarcasm there. Eventually, hopefully they get that fixed out there, but probably not. And other than that, we've got a pretty nice forecast. Remember last year?
Nope.
we had a foot of snow on the ground.
I've actually blocked it out for PTSD.
Just been repressed.
The golf courses are benefiting from this. A little extra revenue compared to last year.
My grass is turning green.
The farmers are out in the field.
Yeah.
Already planting wheat, from what I've heard.
Kind of. Okay, so we have a question. There is some wheat that's gone in the field already.
Right.
Okay, so Farmer Phil in Western Cass County.
Hey, Farmer Phil.
Phil wants to know this system, Monday through Tuesday, that's on the LRC. What's going on? Because how much, essentially, when are you going to get rain? Any estimates of how much rain? Because he has a number of folks in his neighborhood that are pretty close to planting wheat, and they want to make sure, should they do it this weekend before it rains?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
P.S. Justin, they are waiting for the summer outlook calendar.
Heard.
Hugs and kisses, please send.
Right on.
Hugs and kisses.
Hugs and kisses. I like that. I take those in person, though.
Well, I got to go. Okay, so
or Phil could subscribe to the LRC and he'd have it at his fingertips.
He
could do that.
He wouldn't have to wait for Justin to put the calendar out.
He could. So, but he can't.
And the LRC breaks it down week by week. The calendar just says or day by day.
But he can't do it this weekend because he's going to be planting wheat
Good
now.
for him. Yeah. Great weekend to get out in the field before the rain hits. And how much rain? The models are anywhere between ½ inch to 1.5 inches.
Yeah, I've seen anywhere between ½ inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches localized areas. I mean,
I think
as a general widespread area, ½ inch to 1.5 inches.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's a safe bet.
Localized areas, a little more, a little less.
Listener Sarah said, "Wait, do I know Phil?" Well, she does. So we had to clarify
Hi,
that.
Sarah.
Sarah wants us to make sure she didn't even have to say it. It's soil, not dirt. Let's all remember that today, shall we? Okay.
Could we say that the soil is dirty?
That I think you can do.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
For clarification, I'm going to ask our guest who's in studio with us today, and that's Andrew Thostenson. Andrew is the North Dakota State University pesticide coordinator, specialist, extension guy. He does it all. He keeps everybody in line for licensing in the state. Can soil be dirty, Andrew?
Well, actually, soil is a biological entity. It's not just chunks of minerals. Sarah would tell you it's alive. It's got actinomyces. It's got worms. It's wireworms too. We could kill those. That would be all right too.
Oh.
Remember, Dean, what did you say was there a question the other day? How many organisms are in a teaspoon of soil?
Yeah, more than the population on Earth.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
More. That's just still
Astounding.
I'm saying
Pretty cool, huh?
Eat dirt. When we were kids, eat dirt, stay healthy.
Builds your immune system.
It does.
Yeah.
All right. Did we do the weather, or are we still
I think we're still saying hi to people.
Yeah, we haven't.
Hey, if you want to call in, we'll say hi to you too.
Yes.
701-293-9000 is the Red Wing Shoes phone line. Ask some questions. Join the conversation.
Yeah, we've got sunny skies or partly cloudy here in the FM area. We'll turn partly cloudy, and then we'll see scattered showers developing, moving in from the northwest. With highs today pretty close to 70, and again, some spots even a little bit warmer than that. With those winds out of the west-northwest at about 10 to 25 and a little gusty. Tonight, we'll see the showers pretty much dissipate, although there might be a few left over with lows in the low 40s. And tomorrow, blustery and cooler, highs in the mid-50s with a few scattered showers throughout the day tomorrow, and northwest winds at 15 to 30 for tomorrow. But then Friday, sunshine, light winds, close to 60 and low 70s, or right around 70 over the weekend. A little breezy, but not too bad. And an isolated overnight storm possible both Saturday night and Sunday night, but most of the daytime hours will be dry. And then better chance of rain coming in later on the day on Monday and lasting all Tuesday and into early Wednesday. It will turn much cooler later next week as well. No snow, at least not here, but parts of north central, northwestern part of the state could see a few snowflakes before next week is done.
Huh.
So that just tells you we're going to turn cooler here as well.
I believe down the hall, I mentioned earlier, none of this can interfere with my flights, right? Knock on wood, please. Thank you.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Justin.
You're fine. But you're going on a MSP, right?
Yeah, I got to go through Minneapolis.
Oh, you're going
What day?
down to...
on Tuesday and then back again through there on Thursday morning.
Okay.
So am I good? Am I good?
You're good.
Okay.
I might run into you Thursday morning. No, I'm
Well,
getting
good,
Wednesday night.
because if for whatever reason I can't get back
Although,
to Fargo, I'm
Justin,
going to need your car to
Stay
get
away.
back.
If Dean's
Justin
going to
had-
be there,
Yeah. Justin
10
had
mile radius.
You know, every once in a while, Justin will come up with a great idea. So I was going to cut my vacation short.
True.
For me, a 4-day trip to Arizona is short. That's a short trip. So
yeah, why even go?
Golf.
4 days?
Golf and pool and
travel for 2
and
of them.
baseball. So Justin says, well, you got a couple of comp days you got to burn. Why don't you check flights and just come back Friday instead
I think
of Wednesday?
I said Sunday.
You said Sunday.
Stay
but
through the weekend.
I could. So
So
thanks
I'm
to
not
Justin.
going to see you at all next week?
No, probably not. I'm going to take a couple extra days. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
As long as I can get a decent flight back.
Well, I'm glad
see
somebody
what the
told me.
price
Otherwise, I'd be like, so anybody want to tell me where Dean is today? I just logged in. Can't find him.
Oh, he's gone.
Grief.
It's going
Okay.
to be a little quieter.
All right. So today is a big day.
It's like when I'm not here.
Yeah, right.
We are going to the field to start doing videos for our Here We Grow project. We're custom farming 20 acres of corn north of Glendon.
Do we have that online yet?
No.
Not yet. Our
Okay.
first videos are going to be going up very soon. I am all ready to go. I have my Red Wing shoes on today to head to the field. Thank you to the crew at Red Wing Shoes. Teresa does an awesome job of outfitting everybody. Yep, they're right there.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot put my shoe on the desk because this desk is taller than I am, so we can't try to show my shoe off. And then also North Dakota State Services. Thank you to Mark Wagner for the work that he does with us. In fact, I missed a call from him while my guest today, Andrew, and I were having lunch because I'm going to book some time with Mark to come in studio and join us, talk about farm transition planning, estate planning, etc.
Nice.
So many things going on these days, guys. Many.
All sorts of things.
Busy. That's good. Well, it's a very busy time of the year. Now, are the farmers, how does this benefit them? Obviously, we had, again, foot of snow on the ground last year. How does this benefit them getting out this early in the field in terms of wheat, opposed to waiting until sometime in May?
Okay.
A month from now.
Because Andrew's here too. And Andrew, let's see, how many years do you have working in ag in North Dakota? 35?
28.
Okay, 28. We're close.
Oh, so novice.
So, so both of us will get in on this one. Wheat goes in the ground this time of year. We see cereals get planted, barley, etc.
Okay.
Getting that rainfall on it, like Phil was mentioning, not a bad thing. Listener Jacob down by Fort Ransom said it's not a D4 drought down there. They're actually sitting really well for some soil moisture. I mean, Andrew, what are the things that I'm missing here?
Well, one of the things that really excites me is when you have a real short planting window, you don't have time to do anything. Now we've got this wide open time, and if we make a mistake, we've got time.
Right.
And we just, usually it's crazy. We just don't have enough time. But on the front end, we're getting some time, so people are going to be able to do some stuff.
Absolutely.
So April, so we're going into the second week. What's the earliest you've seen planting up here?
Which crop?
Wheat.
Wheat?
Something.
I guess I've got my guess. Andrew, what do you have?
I know in the West that, mid-March
Yep.
is not at all unusual. Around Castleton, first 10 days of April is not at all outside of the possibility.
Right.
For wheat, I would agree. As far as early, as I've probably seen it as early as like March 10th, by Dickinson.
What about, I'm talking in the valley, though.
Here in the valley, we see that a little bit later. Not surprising, maybe around March 20th. We've had some years where we did not have snow on the ground and put it in. Wheat's really built for this country.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we had bonanza farms that really were the start of Dakota Territory.
Cass, I got a question. So is it mainly wheat that they'd be putting in early March, April? Are we talking other crops too that are going in during that early April time frame?
Barley, certainly barley would be, right there with the wheat.
Durham
oats,
up north.
Durham wheat, that'll all go in.
I guess where I'm going with this is, are these plants, if when they come up, are they fine if there's a frost or a freeze? Is that not
Most
going to
of your
kill 'em?
small grains can tolerate frost, to the low 20s,
So really, as long as we're not dropping into the teens or
Yeah,
single
then things-
digits for a
And
night.
interestingly enough, wheat and barley can get acclimatized if they get a series of cold weather events.
Right.
They get hardened up, and they might be able to take some teens, but certainly in the 20s.
Corn and soybeans would be a different story.
Yeah.
They're not ready for that type of cold weather. In fact, with corn, once it breaks its dormancy, its seed coating, there's something called cold water imbibing. It does not like to get cold rain, cold moisture into that plant during germination.
Yeah, some of our other crops like peas or lentils or canola in particular, if they're properly hardened off, they could take 5 or 6 degrees of frost. But you get things like sunflowers and soybeans and corn. They can't take as much abuse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thankfully now we got the LRC to give you a good idea of what those temperatures trends will be in spring. But before that, was it to some point worth the risk of trying to get into the field early and then 2 weeks down the road, your plants are up and bam, it's 20 degrees for a couple of days or 15 degrees at night and your whole crop just died off.
So we play a probability game, and part of that probability game is insurance.
Yeah.
And the insurance system is all probability based, right? So the more years and experience that we have with a crop in a particular area, the more information we have that can go into the statistics. And most everybody goes with the crop insurance program.
Yep.
So there are, the earliest planting date is acceptable for insurance is, kind of that people don't really want to go before that because you don't have any protection if you do get into a really bad frost situation. And nobody wants to replant.
No.
Because number one, the crops would never do as well, and number two, it's just so expensive, and the time and the hassle. So it's always that's what farmers are in the game for. I mean, they have to read the signs of the weather and what's in their gut, and they just go with it.
Welcome to gambling. There's an old farmer's tale that says if you're concerned that the ground's not warm enough to seed yet, the way to figure out if it's warm enough to plant, drop your drawers, sit on the bare ground with your bare butt, and if you can sit there for a while, then it's okay to plant.
Serious.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Let's just say that's some things on Twitter I don't need to see again.
I don't know. Maybe I'd sit on the bare dirt. I don't know if I'd do it on the bare soil. There are living things in there.
Okay, so folks, we have to go check up with the American Ag Network, but I am sure this conversation will continue. Again, we've got Andrew Thostenson from NDSU with us in studio. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Weather and Egg in Focus. And that's the only goat today. Only goat
We only
today,
had
right?
one yesterday.
I know. So
Wait until the end of the show. Bridget thought she was going to escape the show without the screaming
She thought
goat.
she was home free.
We made a trade for 10 of them.
Arr, matey. Oh, God. Okay. So everything today going downhill a little bit more. Okay. So today we will not go downhill in the fact that we have a great guest with us today. That's Andrew Thostenson. He's with NDSU. Andrew's the guy that he's got this huge title, but essentially he keeps all of us in order when it comes to certification for pesticide applications. And he and I had a chance to visit earlier today. There's a lot going on. Okay. So hey, farmers, this is all for you. When it comes to what's going to be happening with the EPA and the Endangered Species Act, there was supposed to be a herbicide strategy plan that was available March 30th. It hasn't happened yet. So, Andrew, I have the article you gave me if you need me to send it over there. Based on what we saw, what does this mean for farmers today? Is this something that's going to affect our records and applications for 2024?
I don't see any significant changes for 2024. There will be some statements on certain pesticide labels, but in the grand scheme of things, hardly anything for 2024.
That's actually a positive for us right now. I mean, people just aren't thinking about it necessarily. And you and I spent a lot of time this winter talking about it with our farmers.
Right. I think people need to think about this more of a long-term situation. 2025, I think you're going to see more and more pesticides that are going to come into the marketplace with statements about endangered species protection. Certainly by 2026. Herbicides are going to tend to be earlier in terms of endangered species restrictions because that is going through a herbicide strategy review first. And then we will get rodenticides after that, then insecticides after that, and then fungicides after that. So herbicides are going to be the ones that are going to bite the most early on. And probably 2026, I think we're going to see a lot of stuff.
Okay, so let's maybe back up a little bit. Endangered Species Act. Why is an Endangered Species Act suddenly of a high profile for a farmer?
Okay, so endangered species has been around since the early 70s. Congress, president said, hey, we got to protect the bald eagles. We got to take care of the polar bears, California condors. Everybody's like, we're on that. And then after the fact, they started to really dig down and say, we're talking more than just the warm and fuzzy, cuddly creatures here. We're talking about all creatures. We're talking about plants and insects, and they haven't got to microbes yet, but
Give it time.
all of these living entities, right? And so you have like 40 or 50 years here where they've been digging into this Endangered Species Act, and environmental advocacy groups have been very active. They want to protect the endangered species, and pesticides have been implicated as causing problems for endangered species. EPA has been losing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit with these environmental advocacy groups. And in 2022, EPA said, enough, we're done. Let's settle. We're going to come up with a plan. Of course, just because they settled and just because they're going to come up with a plan doesn't mean that plan will be good, but it does mean that the lawsuit will go away. But the environmental advocacy groups want to keep EPA's feet to the fire. And so EPA is implementing these strategies to protect endangered species. And we're not just talking about eagles or the great wolf. I mean, we're talking about the timber rattler in Minnesota. We're talking about the pallid sturgeon in the Missouri River. There's a whole range of the rusty bumblebee.
Yeah, in Kansas.
Which people, these things just don't roll off the top of everybody's head. So,
additionally, when it comes to what EPA is talking about when it comes to this Endangered Species Act, here probably 4 years ago was all of a sudden a surprise where when we wanted to spray a product like dicamba, you as an applicator or a farmer had to go to a sudden new website that the EPA had to go check if there was an endangered species in your county. That's been effective now since that began 4 years ago. People are paying more attention to it. But there's a problem with trying to look on a county level. So can you kind of explain that from the applicator's perspective, Andrew?
Right. So let's just imagine, if you will, that there is an endangered species habitat in one corner or one part of a county. If that habitat exists in that county, EPA has basically said the whole county will have to be under mitigations or restrictions from pesticide use for the whole county, even though these creatures may be in a very small habitat in a small portion of the county. We're talking the entire county. You can imagine like Stutzman County, some of our bigger counties out there. All of a sudden it's like, you want me to implement these restrictions or these mitigation measures. There isn't one of these creatures within 30 miles of my farming operation. Why should I do that? And so EPA, is finally starting to get the word that that's just not acceptable. And I hope that EPA is going to get to the point where they're going to start talking about streams or ponds or around certain areas or wildlife areas instead of county-wide, lumping everything into a county-wide restriction. And EPA has heard that. They just released a revision or an update on their endangered species work plan. And they said that they're going to have to look at narrowing the focus into a tighter area in a particular part of a county, instead of just, if there's one habitat area, making everybody in the whole county go for it.
Look at that. A government agency listened to a group of consumers, public. It wasn't just a broad stroke movement.
Yeah,
right there.
I think there was a lot of pushback from industry.
Yeah.
When I talk about industry, we're talking farmers and custom applicators and the wheat growers, the soybean people, sugar beet growers. I think EPA really heard that loud and clear. And the other thing is they were challenged a couple of years ago by a university scientist down in Georgia, and says, this is outrageous. These creatures do not exist in these places that you're talking about. He went out and did the assessments, and he was right, and the Fish and Wildlife Service and EPA concurred, and they had to dial back their restrictions. So this is, the other problem is if EPA doesn't ratchet these things back properly, then they're going to get sued from industry, and they've lost in that area.
Everybody wants to sue the government, it seems. So, okay, we will be right back. When you said dial back, well, don't change the dial, because we have more to talk about. Especially Andrew had a special announcement that went out today that we want to ask him about. And don't forget to keep listening. We're going to talk about Jay's tax relief that's sponsored by ATI of Fargo, and also stop relying on your tax refund. Coast Materials is offering you a very lucrative opportunity. So go to coastmaterials.com. Coast is also helping to sponsor Jay's tax relief. And you'll listen for that sounder sometime in our show today in order to call in and be ready. All right, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:35 in the afternoon on this Wednesday, April 10th. And joining us today is Andrew Thostenson. Did I pronounce that last name right?
He didn't butcher it too
Okay,
bad.
yeah. I'm used to people butchering my name every day. So
How's it go?
yeah.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Well, Andrew, Bridgette tells me that you've got a big announcement this week. Can you spill the beans on our show, or?
It wasn't anything that I announced. I told my boss a couple of months ago that I was going to retire, and he decided to put out a news release. And I don't know, honestly, maybe he's just really excited. Make sure we get the news release out so Andrew will actually leave and retire. So I'm going to be retiring in the fall.
Okay,
It's exciting.
And like I said, we joke about it, but my boss he's really cool about it, and I'm very sentimental about my applicators and the egg industry, and it's just been a great ride, and now I'm just going to take some time to enjoy some things. I'm going to try and keep up on.
Are you really going to retire, or are you going to be doing anything part time?
No. I'm not going to do part time.
Okay.
No, but I'm going to do emeritus status, and keep my fingers a little bit into the pesticide pie. But I went skiing in Red Lodges last weekend, and I was like, I got to tell you, I'm going to be doing more of that. So I'll have to pontificate about pesticides from on top of some ski hill somewhere. It could be a lot more fun, huh?
Right?
Okay, so 28 years just here in North Dakota. What's the big change that has happened in
that's
your
easy.
programming?
Well, I shouldn't say in my program, but I think that the industry, farmers in general, are much more aware, politically astute, and they are more professional than when I started. Some of the practices that we just kind of took for granted when I started. A lot of people just they pull on some gloves before they start handling pesticides. I had one guy say, "Hey, Andrew, do I really need to worry about anything with this stuff?" And I said, "Well, do you take a bath in it?" And he's like, "Well, no, I don't." And I said, "Do you wear gloves when you're handling it?" "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, then I don't think you have any problem." But like I said, if you want to abuse yourself, if you don't want to take care of yourself, then you got a lot of things to worry about in the pesticide arena. But if you're concerned about taking care of your own welfare, no, I don't think you have to worry. I had a couple kids in college. That's how they paid for school. They were out spraying pesticides. And my son did all the mosquito control work in the metro area with Cass County Vector, and my other child, she was out there working for the weed research program at NDSU. I mean, just doing an outstanding job slaying weeds. So, yeah, I'm not afraid of pesticides, especially if you treat them with respect.
I got one for you. There's a lot of talk out there of people who are afraid of chemicals or poisoning the food supply, and the whole organic, no fertilizers, no chemicals, no pesticides, none of this. How do pesticides actually work in that regard, with people being afraid, well, I can't eat it, it's been sprayed with a pesticide? Or how is a pesticide really working, and how does that eventually break down?
Yeah, I just don't see any of the health risks that a lot of people talk about. And I've never been worried about any of the food. Now, there are times when people use pesticides irresponsibly, and we could get residues in foods. And when we do that, that's not a good thing. And so one of the things that EPA does is they have a margin of safety, like 10,000-fold for some of these pesticides. So they say, well, this is where we think the risk is, so we're going to make sure that's going to be 10,000 times less than where we think the risk is. So, frankly, I don't lose any sleep over it. I understand why people feel that way. It's legitimate. It's real. They're concerned about their welfare. There are a lot of different things out there that people can be phobic about, but Honestly, I drove here today in my vehicle, and the chance of me getting in a car accident and getting seriously hurt is, oh man, many, many times higher than anything that I could ever eat. So
Right.
And when you said that, Justin, about, how does it actually work? Think of it this way. If we spray pesticides in a field, and I'll use herbicides as the example. When you spray in a cornfield, that plant is a living organism. It literally metabolizes what's applied to it. And if you think of it this way, it kind of poops it out its roots. So then you don't have the residue in the plant at the time that it's harvested going into a food product.
Right.
yeah, some of these pesticides, they're not even around within 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
They get exposed to sunshine. They get washed out into the soil, and the microbes chew them up. So there are a lot of different ways that they can break that down. The other thing is that we've gotten away from pesticides that have long persistence. So some of the pesticides that we used routinely, DDT, which was really hard on certain birds of prey in particular, we haven't had those things around for years and years and years because they're so persistent in the environment, and we just don't use them anymore.
And how about this one as well? When applying pesticides, are these a targeted approach for specific organisms that you're trying to control, or are there other things that are going to get caught in the crosshairs with this? And the term that I've heard is you can't use that pesticide, you're killing the bees, the poor honeybees.
Yeah, I mean, that's real. You can get collateral damage out there with any kind of pesticide, and so we try to make applications when the honeybees are not out foraging. We try to move the honeybees so that they're not in the area when we're making those applications. There's a lot of different ways that we can minimize adverse impacts on these creatures. We had a problem with monarch butterflies a couple of years ago with the mosquito control product here in the metro, and I completely get why people don't like seeing monarch butterflies dying on the sidewalk. There were a lot of things that went into that situation, but it wasn't because people were using those pesticides irresponsibly. It was because there was a collision or a perfect storm of events that helped bring that problem about.
Things have changed a lot over the years, and we've gotten smarter about it. And now our discussions with things like the EPA involve farmers that want to talk and say, these are tools that I use constantly. I want to make sure that they're viable for the long term. And that matters a lot.
Yeah, I think that they really get into a situation where, if you're going to abuse these things, you're not going to have them available. And I think that the industry has realized that, and so they're being much more protective and much more cagey about their actions because they don't want to lose the stuff. And Bridgette and I have been out, in pesticide trainings talking about this very, very thing. It's like, hey, there are incidences, there are examples out there where we just don't have those tools anymore because people didn't take care of business and they abused their ability to use them.
All right. If you want to think about what's been probably an example that stood out the most of a tool that we have lost, or it's been on the bubble that we might lose because we weren't using it responsibly, any particular ones come to mind?
Well, I mean, dicamba is a perfect example of that. We use it a lot over the top in soybeans, and EPA has lost 2 major lawsuits over it. It's no longer available after this year. That's a perfect example. An old one from the olden days was Tordon, picloram, which is a really outstanding broadleaf weed control product, and it was abused. And so,
in certain crops, like in wheat.
In certain crops, so we just don't have those label uses anymore.
I like Tordon. Tordon is great for leafy spurge control, which is like the dull yellow flower you see in the roadside ditches during the summers, especially early in spring. I had a college professor at NDSU who always told the story that picloram's, the active ingredient, really pretty safe. But if you drank like a shot of it and then peed on a flower, you'd kill the flower. It just wouldn't hurt you.
Well, yeah, and picloram's been around a long time. It was actually used in Vietnam as in vegetation control.
Yep.
And it was called Agent White because it was in a 55-gallon drum that had a white stripe around it. And that's how they name these things. There's Agent Orange, there's Agent White, there's Agent Purple,
Yeah.
and Tordon was Agent White.
Vastly different things were going on then. So, Andrew, as we think about tips, tricks, ideas for farmers going into the field this year, what are some reminders you've been telling people that they need to be doing, whether it's with their record keeping, their applications? What are some reminders we want to give everybody going into spring?
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. If you're going to take a bath in this stuff, it's not going to be a good thing. So I think the first thing is you got to take care of yourself. So whatever you do when you're working around the pesticides, make sure that you're working with them appropriately to protect yourself. Then you got to start thinking about the people that are working around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, your hired people. We got to make sure that we take care of those people. So we need to protect them, and they need to protect themselves from exposure events. Once we get those sorts of things out of the way, then we can start talking about, application-related stuff. How many gallons of water are you going to put down? What kind of adjuvants are we going to use? What are we going to use for spray droplets or for spray nozzles? On and on and on. I think one of the things, Bridgette, you mentioned to me earlier, what's changed? In the old days, we used to just put down one chemical
On
with
everything.
one application. And then maybe we would do another chemical with some insecticides and another one with the fungicide. Now we have these 4, 5, 6-way tank mixes of different products all mixed together. I just can't even imagine the logistics involved with that. And so when you buy an agricultural pesticide, you're probably getting 3 or 4 different active ingredients at a minimum in there. And so it's not just one component, it's all of them.
So the countdown is on, Andrew. This is your last summer before retirement.
Yeah, last summer before retirement.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can speak freely.
You can say all the things that you haven't been able to say for 28 years.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want people to follow along with those, where can they find you, and what's your website address for your department?
Yeah, well, if you just type in ndsupesticide.org, you're going to come to my website, and you'll be able to find information there on getting certified and also looking up certification records. We actually generate QR codes on each particular record, so it's a fantastic tool. I think you should be making use of it. And obviously, I'm on X now. I've been on X or Twitter since, I think, 2016, so I'm on there fairly routinely, and people know it. Sometimes I wonder if they're like going, I wonder if I should say this because Andrew will see it. And then he will weigh in on it.
That's funny. Hi there, Mike. How are you doing today? You got a quick question?
Great. I love the show, and we're going to be losing a wealth of information when he retires. But I wish, the one comment I have is I wish that the ag industry, I used to do custom spraying and stuff, but I wish they would put out more information to the general public to tell people that the minute amount of chemical that a farmer puts down per acre versus what they put down in their own yard is so drastically different. I've seen people where they are standing out in the yard with their little hand sprayer and they're drowning the dandelion or the weed that they're looking at, and that's doing way more harm to the environment than what the farmer is doing. And I'll let you comment on that.
Well, that's absolutely
Appreciate
true.
it, Mike.
And my wife, she just gets all excited. What were you thinking of to go out there and spray that dandelion without gloves on? Do you know what you're doing? And I was like, spraying the dandelion. She's like, there are people that are watching you right now, and you cannot be setting a bad example for them. So
Gail's very direct.
I mean, there are people in West Fargo that I know they know I'm out spraying. They're taking pictures, they're waiting, they're Snapchat, whatever. And it's like, Andrew's he's going to step in it big time.
Well, Andrew, I want to thank you very much for coming on here today. We wish you the best with retirement coming up around the corner. And again, just thanks for coming in and sharing this information with us.
Well, you're welcome. It's great. Y'all run a great operation, and it's just wonderful to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that.
Thanks, Andrew.
Well, stay tuned. We got so much more coming up on the show in the next segment. But first, this. Be caller number 6. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. Addison, who is our lucky caller number 6 who won over the break to get entered in Jay's tax relief?
Lucky caller number 6 today was a gentleman by the name of Steve H.
Steve H. Steve Hallstrom, president of our company, is
Yeah,
not
that's
eligible
not
to
right.
win here, Steve.
I didn't know we were
Congratulations.
allowed to call in. I should call in.
I
one day.
tried one day.
I
was
was
not
calling.
caller number 7.
I tried. No, actually. And then I did get a message from, so remember we got a mascot for the show.
The screaming
The little,
goat.
no, God, no, stop it.
Darn it.
His mic was off.
We got the last second in.
We got the little Highlander cow, the little stuff.
Yeah,
in the
he's
office?
chilling in the
Yeah.
office
Yeah,
right now.
I named his name is Cooper, and he's not here in studio because when I came down the hall with Andrew today, I forgot to grab him and carry him down the hall with me. So I'm
There's
so
still
sorry.
time.
There goes Bridgette sprinting down
there
the
she
hall.
goes.
Right.
You know what else we have time for?
What?
Cheyenne Garden Trivia. All you got to do is be the first person to call in with the correct answer, and you'll win yourself a $10 gift card to Cheyenne Gardens. And your trivia question for today. We recently had a guest on last fall who grew giant pumpkins out of Anoka, Minnesota. His name was Travis Ginger. And he just grew the world's largest pumpkin that was recorded this year. Well, technically last year. I'm going to give you 50 pounds of wiggle room. How heavy was the world's largest pumpkin that he grew in Anoka, Minnesota last year?
50 pounds of wiggle room still has me laughing.
50 pounds of wiggle room here. 701-293-9000 is the Red Wing Shoes phone line.
I hear the Google fingers going.
I'm actually growing this same variety of pumpkin this year.
Are you going to get 50 pounds of wiggle room?
I hope I hit 50 pounds.
I hope so. That would be phenomenal.
I started 6 vines, and well, I sent you guys
saw a
pictures
picture.
yesterday. But yeah, they're about 5 inches tall right now.
You sent me a picture, and also I did ask for the mac and cheese that was in the bowl in your
Yeah,
hand, and you didn't bring me any mac and cheese.
I'm sorry.
Fine, I'll take that. Do we have guesses?
We got a guess
Nobody's
here.
guessed?
Hi there, caller. What's your name?
Jeff,
Jeff, how heavy do you think that pumpkin was?
2,700 pounds?
I'm going to give you the 50-pound wiggle room, 2,749 pounds.
Oh,
So there
just
you
made
go. Congratulations there, Jeff. Hey, stay on the line. Producer will get a little information from you, and then we'll get you able to pick up that certificate to Cheyenne Gardens.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for listening, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Jeff is so lucky he should get a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Just slid in there.
Nice.
Just slid in there.
One last thing we're going to slide in this segment too. MortonBuildings.com is looking for you. They want to make sure that you are part of their excellent team. So check them out, MortonBuildings.com/careers, because the weather's getting nice. And when it gets too hot, you still get bad weather pay from them. Quarterly bonuses, much, much more.
All right, let's hit a couple of ag topics. If we got a little bit of time. We already did the weather. Let's do ag.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we go. This one I found is awesome because we had so much tree damage at Christmas time from all of the ice and the rain. Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
So soybean growers have an opportunity now to raise soybeans, and they'll be used for a bio-based oil for your chainsaws, for the bars and the chain. This is being sold through DeWalt, and it's known as the Bar and Chain Biodegradable Oil. It's available at Home Depot stores as well as Baumgars, Mac Tools, Granger, and Amazon as others. So if any of you watch the History Channel show called Axemen, I don't, but apparently I should, because there's a dude on there named Buck and Billy Ray Smith.
Ooh.
And Billy Ray, notice how careful I enunciated. So Billy
That's
Ray.
wildly inappropriate.
That's the second inappropriate you gave me today.
Shape up.
Billy Ray says he has given this a try. He is a 30-year veteran of the logging and tree failing. He's knocking trees down. How's that?
There you go.
And so he is very impressed with this soy-based bar and chain oil. So pick some up, give it a try. I know I'm going to be chopping up trees real quick at my place. There were some doozies that came down. So that's just one thing. Then over in Minnesota, there's a new business. We see silos out on the horizon from time to time, and they were probably a stave silo that was built with interlocking cement blocks. Most of the time, you knock out some of the blocks at the bottom and hope it follows the direction it's supposed to. Because keep this in mind, if you have a 20 by 60 foot silo that weighs 75 tons, I've also seen some very inappropriate things with tannerite on those silos to get them down. This guy has a business called Top Down Silo, and he can take them down for you and then crush the staves to make a crushed concrete to use around the yard.
Yeah, right on. Well, appreciate it, Bridgette, and appreciate you for listening. We're back tomorrow, 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The Jay Thomas Show's coming up next. Oh, by the way, you have an insufficient amount of pylons.